The wind howled through the pines surrounding the Miller family cabin, carrying with it the scent of rain and something else, something wrong. Sarah Miller stood at the kitchen window, her breath fogging the glass as she peered into the impenetrable darkness beyond the porch light's weak glow. It was 11:47 p.m. She remembered the exact time because she'd checked her phone twice, worried about her husband Tom, who should have been home from his night shift at the lumber mill an hour ago. Behind her, Rex, their 3-year-old German shepherd, paced back and forth across the worn wooden floor, his nails clicking rhythmically. Click, click, click. His ears were pinned back and a low rumble emanated from deep in his chest. "What is it, boy?" Sarah whispered, but she already knew. Rex was never wrong. Suddenly, the dog froze. His entire body went rigid, every muscle taut as steel cable. His head snapped toward the back door and the growl stopped, replaced by something far more terrifying. Silence. Then he heard it, they both did. A sound like branches breaking, footsteps, slow, uneven, coming from the woods behind the house. But something about those footsteps wasn't right. Rex exploded into motion before Sarah could react. He launched himself at the back door, barking with an intensity she'd never heard before, sharp, urgent, desperate barks that sent ice through her veins. "Rex, no, stay." But the dog wouldn't listen. He scratched at the door, his powerful claws gouging the wood, his entire body trembling with the need to get outside. Sarah's hands shook as she reached for her phone. No signal. The storm must have knocked out the cell tower again. She was alone, miles from the nearest neighbor, with no way to call for help. The footsteps stopped. In the suffocating silence that followed, Sarah made a decision that would change everything. She grabbed Tom's flashlight from the hook by the door, checked that the heavy maglite had working batteries, and with trembling fingers, unlatched the door. Rex burst through the opening like a black and tan missile, disappearing into the darkness so quickly that Sarah's flashlight beam caught only the white tip of his tail before the night swallowed him whole. "Rex, come back." Her voice was lost in the wind. For 30 seconds there was nothing, just the sound of her own heartbeat pounding in her ears and the rain beginning to fall in heavy, cold drops. Then came the barking, frantic, furious, coming from somewhere deep in the forest. Followed by a sound that made Sarah's blood run cold, a human scream, cut short. What was Rex fighting in those woods? Sarah ran. She ran despite every instinct screaming at her to lock the door and hide. She ran because Rex was out there, and because that scream, God help her, had sounded like Tom. The flashlight beam bounced wildly as she crashed through the underbrush, branches tearing at her face and arms. The rain was coming down harder now, turning the forest floor into a slick maze of roots and rocks. "Rex, Tom!" The barking had stopped. That was worse than anything. She stumbled into a small clearing and froze, her flashlight illuminating a scene that made no sense. Rex stood in the center, his fur matted with rain and something darker. His teeth were bared, and he was positioned protectively over something on the ground, something large, motionless, wearing a torn, mud-stained jacket. Tom's jacket. No, 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 no. Sarah's legs nearly gave out as she rushed forward. But Rex moved to block her path, his body language clear. "Stay back." His eyes, usually so warm and trusting, were wild with something between fear and determination. "Rex, move, that's Tom, let me." The dog barked once, sharp, commanding, and then did something that stopped Sarah's heart. He grabbed the jacket collar in his powerful jaws and began dragging the body toward her. Not away, toward her, through the mud and leaves, pulling with all his considerable strength. But as the flashlight beam caught the figure's face, Sarah's scream echoed through the forest. That wasn't Tom. The man Rex was dragging was a complete stranger. 40-something, unconscious, with a nasty gash across his forehead and what looked like defensive wounds on his arms. He was wearing Tom's jacket, Tom's favorite jacket with the lumber mill patch on the shoulder. Sarah's mind raced. Where did this man get Tom's jacket? Where was her husband? Rex released the stranger and immediately turned back toward the woods, barking at a specific spot in the darkness, a dense thicket of brambles about 20 feet away. Then Sarah saw it, a boot, Tom's steel-toed work boot, protruding from beneath the thorny bushes. She crashed through the brambles without feeling the thorns tearing her skin, and there he was, Tom, wedged in a small ravine, unconscious but breathing. His jacket was gone, but he was alive. There was a swelling knot on the back of his head, and his skin was cold to the touch. "Tom, wake up, please wake up." His eyelids fluttered. "Sarah," his voice was barely a whisper, Truck, broke down, mile back, man, offered help, attacked me, took my jacket. Understanding crashed over Sarah like the rain. The stranger had attacked Tom, stolen his jacket, and was heading to their cabin, probably saw the lights and was going to rob them, or worse. But Rex had known. Somehow Rex had known that the footsteps in the dark didn't belong to Tom. The scent was wrong. The gate was wrong. And when the stranger got close enough, Rex had done what he was bred to do, protect his family at any cost. The German shepherd had chased the attacker into the woods and brought him down before he could reach the cabin, before he could reach Sarah. But the night wasn't over yet. Sarah managed to help Tom out of the ravine, and together they approached the unconscious stranger. Tom pulled out his phone, his had signal, and called 911. While they waited for help, Tom checked the man's pockets for ID and found something that made the entire night even more disturbing. A local newspaper clipping about their cabin, with a date circled 3 times in red ink. Today's date. There were also photos of their cabin taken from the woods, photos of their daily routines, a map with entry points marked. This wasn't random, Tom said, his voice shaking. He was targeting us, planning this. Sarah looked at Rex, who sat calmly now, watching the stranger with unwavering focus. The dog's fur was still raised along his spine, ready to attack again if needed. How long had Rex been sensing danger? How many nights had he paced the house, alerting them to something they couldn't see? How many times had they dismissed his behavior as anxiety or boredom? The German shepherd had been right all along. 20 minutes later, the clearing filled with red and blue lights. Sheriff Martinez emerged from the trees with 4 deputies. And his face went pale when he saw the stranger. "That's Daniel Knowles," the sheriff said. "We've been looking for him for 3 weeks. He's wanted for multiple home invasions in the county, 3 families. He waited until the husband was away then. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to." Sarah's knees buckled as the full weight of what could have happened crashed down on her. If Rex hadn't stopped this man, if Rex hadn't dragged him away from the cabin, if Rex hadn't known. The German shepherd trotted over and sat at her feet, placing one paw on her knee. His dark eyes were calm now, filled with the gentle intelligence she knew so well. Tom knelt beside the dog, wrapping his arms around Rex's powerful neck. "You saved us, boy, you saved us." But Rex wasn't done protecting them yet. As the deputies loaded Knowles onto a stretcher, he was starting to regain consciousness. One of them noticed something in the man's boot. A small notebook, water-damaged but readable. Sheriff Martinez flipped through it, his expression growing darker with each page. There's a list here, other families, other cabins. Yours was just the first stop tonight." He looked at Tom and Sarah with newfound respect. If your dog hadn't stopped him here, Knowles had 3 other homes marked for tonight. The Robertson place, the Chen family, and the Whittaker's cabin. All families with small children, all isolated. The radio on Martinez's belt crackled to life. "Sheriff, we've got units heading to those locations now, advising all families to shelter in place." Sarah felt Tom's hand find hers in the darkness. They'd been so focused on their own near miss that they hadn't considered the bigger picture. Rex hadn't just saved them, he'd potentially saved 3 other families from experiencing the same nightmare. As dawn began to break through the rain clouds, painting the forest in shades of grey and gold, the sheriff approached them one last time. "That's one hell of a dog you've got there," he said, kneeling to scratch Rex behind the ears. The German shepherd's tail wagged slowly, accepting the praise with the dignified air of a protector who was simply doing his job. "We've had K9 units searching for Knowles for weeks. Thermal imaging, tracking dogs, the whole works. But your Rex, he knew. He knew the moment that man stepped onto your property that something was wrong. He didn't wait for a command or permission, he just acted." Martinez stood, tipping his hat. "You folks are alive because you have a dog that's more than a pet. You have a guardian, a partner, a member of your family who was willing to risk everything to keep you safe." 3 months later, Sarah stood in the community center, holding a plaque with Rex's name engraved in shining letters. The entire town had gathered to honor the German shepherd who had stopped one of the most dangerous criminals the county had ever seen. The Robertson family was there, with their twin daughters who would never know how close danger had come that rainy night. The Chens stood beside them, holding their infant son. The Whittakers had their 3 boys, all wearing Rex fan club t-shirts they'd made themselves. But Rex wasn't interested in the ceremony or the attention. He sat calmly at Sarah's feet, his eyes scanning the crowd, still watching, still protecting, still ready. Tom knelt beside his faithful companion, pressing his forehead against the dog's. "You're not just a good boy," he whispered. "You're the best boy, you're our hero." Rex's tail wagged, and for just a moment, the fierce protector became a happy dog again, soaking up the love from his family. In a world that often feels unpredictable and dangerous, we sometimes forget that we're not facing it alone. The animals we invite into our homes, our lives, our hearts, they're not just pets or companions. They're guardians with instincts we've long forgotten, with loyalty that knows no limits, with courage that puts our own to shame. Rex didn't chase something in the dark because he was trained to. He did it because love made him brave, because protection isn't just an instinct, it's a promise that the best dogs keep with every beat of their devoted hearts. Trust your dog when they sense danger. Listen when they're trying to tell you something, because sometimes the hero we need most isn't wearing a cape or a badge. Sometimes the hero we need has 4 paws, a noble heart, and the courage to chase into the darkness, not knowing what waits there, but knowing that their family is worth any risk. This is Rex's story, but it's also the story of every loyal dog who has ever stood between their family and danger, asking for nothing in return except love, trust, and the chance to prove that they were worthy of it all along.